So I am creating this video series to describe the process of building a feature to an already existing product here at Cause of a Kind. So the general idea here is that as a developer or a project manager or a product manager, you can often be given a set of somewhat ambiguous requirements. Perhaps we just receive a design. This is probably the most common use case that we see at an agency is we get a design and a generalized list of features that comes out of a scope of work. And so as a developer, how would I go about breaking this down piece by piece? And I think it's important to note, like I said, that there's typically other roles involved in the creation of this process. But I think it's good to go through it end to end because very often it doesn't happen quite that way. We get some ambiguous requirements and we are the ones who have to break this down into pieces. So I have my Excalibur open here because this will just be kind of a blank canvas for us to mock out what we're trying to do here. And let's just begin with a ticket in your project management platform of choice. This could be Trello, this could be Jira, this could be something like ClickUp, but usually it starts with a ticket or a story, if you will, from the Agile world. And we can kind of start with a really brief title. Today we're going to work on a bookmark feature. So we know that we need to build a bookmark feature. Let's just imagine for a moment that we are building a blog. I'm going to try and keep this relatively high level and abstract so that we're not kind of tied to a specific project here, and this can kind of help you apply this to other areas. So the first thing I like to start with is, while it may be like a safe assumption that everybody knows what a bookmark feature is, I always like to start the card with the business use case for the feature itself. The reason that I like to do this is because I think it does help developers understand how to make better assumptions while in the midst of a build to understand the business use case. So a great example of this is, a lot of times a developer will be building a feature and then, some other stakeholders in the organization get annoyed if they perhaps stop because there was some level of ambiguity. And it's sort of like, oh, well, they couldn't they have made an assumption about how something worked? Well, if you don't provide a little bit of a business use case to things, it's very hard for people to make assumptions about anything, let alone the correct assumption or the one that you would make. So I sort of start with the goal, users need to be able to save an article, say it's a blog article, for later. A user should be able to bookmark the article and return to their bookmarks later to read the article. Right? Very, very simple, basic understanding of a bookmark feature. Right? So we know what we're dealing with. Most of the time, it's not, it's going to be something a little more complicated than this, but it's always good to give the use case, why it's here, right? Very clearly. Users may not want to read an article right now. They're going to bookmark it for later. So now we're going to begin to break this down into a set of should statements. Similar to how we say a user should be able to bookmark the article, we really want to get more fine-grained. So here I am, the design comes to me. There's not really a functional spec. That's what we're creating. As a developer, if you receive a design without a functional spec, you should go ahead and create one for yourself. So firstly, you're very clear about the assumptions you're making. And then secondly, it's something that you can now later send to the designer or the business stakeholder and say, hey, these are the assumptions I'm making. This is what I'm going to go forward with building. Does this make sense? Do I have this correct? Right? So let's just imagine for a moment we have a design, and let's just do a basic kind of articles page. This is the first place that we come to that we see a bookmarks feature appearing, and we have some boxes like this, And inside that box, you know, you can imagine it's an article and there's like a little, some type of a bookmark icon here. And we will just duplicate this a couple of times here so that we can create the basics of our design. This is kind of what we're seeing, right? It's a grid of articles, nothing crazy. The grid has already been created. If you'll imagine for a second, right? We're working in a team here. I'm tasked with building the bookmarks feature. So it stands to reason that I am not building the grid of articles now. I'm working right here. I got a database. I have articles coming in to the product and they're displaying correctly. There's an icon here. It just doesn't work. In the design, I see one of the icons has a little bit of a blue highlight or some kind of a activation state to it. So let's go ahead and kind of write out what's going on here. You know, so user should be able to bookmark an article from the all articles page by clicking a small diamond icon. Right? Makes some sense in the top right corner of the article card. Okay, that makes some sense there. What does the blue state represent, right? In the absence of a functional spec, ideally, it would have said this is the bookmarked state and this is the not bookmarked state. However, here's kind of where we're going to make our first educated assumption. When I come to a design like this, typically the default state is the one that appears less often. So I would assume that a user probably didn't bookmark 5 articles and leave one not bookmarked. They probably just bookmarked the first article here. So we will go ahead and we're going to go ahead and make this assumption, put it in our spec, but note that you could go ask for clarity around this. And let's imagine that we're going to build up some clarifying questions. But when an article is bookmarked, the icon appears in blue. When an article is not bookmarked, the icon appears with a, we can get even more granular, white fill. You know, we can say up here, we can go back here and we'll add the word fill to this. Appears with a blue fill. It could be a little more clear. Cool. Now, we're at this point now. We have a pretty good understanding here. What else do we need to know to continue to build this feature? What it can a user, let's think, the user can bookmark articles from here. We can, user should be able to bookmark when a user clicks an article, clicks an icon, clicks the bookmark icon of an article that was previously bookmarked. The article is removed from bookmarks and the icon is filled white. So these seem very obvious, but I think sometimes things like this just help you understand exactly the logic you're going to be piecing together. And I think right now we're seeing the formation of two, you know, so now we say there are 2 states to the icon, right? We've sort of got that leveled out, but sometimes, you know, bookmarked and not bookmarked. But I'm going to add here, and I'm like, doesn't have good text wrapping in this Excalidraw, that should ask design if these are the only 2 states, right? there's likely going to be a state, and as we kind of get into the development of this, we will see that maybe when the user first lands on the page, I'm not sure which ones are bookmarked and which aren't bookmarked. Do the icons not appear in that state while we're waiting for that data to come in? Do they appear in the default state and then fill themselves in? Right? Let's kind of clarify some of that behavior, you know. So, you know, what happens while if we have not determined, you know, what happens, I guess, during the fetching of bookmarks. Bookmarks, is there an idle state, or does the icon not appear? Right? These are sort of good clarifying questions to ask, and I would actually just go ahead and let's just move this down to like questions here, right? So that's a good question to ask. So let's kind of move on here, and let's see, there's in the top corner here we see a bookmark icon, let's say next to like your profile photo, right? Like, this is kind of like a pretty standard UI thing, you know. And so we have a profile photo, we have this bookmarks icon, and maybe there's a prototype that was given, and when you click on this bookmarks icon, it takes you to a page that looks just like this, right? Or let's say it's a, you know, yeah, it's maybe something similar to this. What would a bookmarks kind of page be? We could, let's say it just goes like this. Let's just duplicate this. So now we have this icon that clicked. Maybe these aren't like this. Instead, they're like, let's do something a little different here. It's like a list, right? We have like a list. There's like a little, maybe the little icon kind of appears in the top left-hand corner this time. You know, not important to look, but you know, it's something different. There's like a list of articles that are bookmarked, and we know that we can get to an all bookmarks page. So now again, we can come over to here and talk about a little bit more of this. Again, use cases. When a user clicks the bookmark icon in the header, it should take them to a separate route / page with all of their bookmarks, right? That's good, because it could very easily be a modal, right? It might not take them to a separate page or route. That's an important distinction. List the assumptions here, right? What if this was supposed to be a full screen takeover and not supposed to be its own route? I don't know. Get it all out there. I'm going to create a new route, and I'm going to put the bookmarks on there. We could assume, right, these are all kind of filled in here. And we see these are filled in. Here's another kind of assumption we're going to make. But I look at this, I say, if a user clicks, and we could say, you know, so this is, let's think about this. We sort of have the initial card, and we have this new card. So we're kind of entering a new section. So we need the idea again of the bookmark icon. I think that when they click the bookmark icon, the behavior should be the same. So it's going to remove it from the list. So when on the all bookmarks page, if the bookmark icon is clicked in the top left of the article card, the bookmark should be removed. Now, what are the questions that come up here? We can remove the bookmark, but pretty easy question to ask here is, let's start here. When on the bookmarks page and you remove a bookmark, should that article be removed from the list? immediately? Should it remain until a refresh? Right, I could see that. If we don't want to update it in place, maybe remove after a delay, right? These are some questions that you're going to want to discuss with the designer. Doesn't mean we can't continue forward with the feature. You know, the simplest path forward is likely to just pop it out of the list, right? As soon as you click this, it removes the bookmark, you knock it off the list. But there could be some behavior there that we're not seeing. And then we have the third place this appears is we are in an article page. So like, let's just take our little sample header and footer here and these two icons, right? This is the other place that it appears. So we grab this and we have an article page and there's like some text and an image. So like, let's just say there's like a big hero banner up here and we have like some text coming across like this, and you know, we do something like this. I don't know, right? Not super important how this how the look of our mock-up here is. You get the idea. And of course, there is yet again a bookmark icon. Maybe it's like sitting just below the hero like this, and it's got no fill or a white fill or something like that. I could make it FFF. And yeah, I think this is pretty solid use case here. Yeah, there's a bookmark icon there. And again, users can bookmark. Let me just drag the canvas over a little bit here so you guys can see. Users can bookmark an article from the article page itself by clicking a bookmark icon below the hero banner, right? Let's call it, that's fairly standard. The same behavior as above should apply. Clicking it toggles it from bookmarked to not bookmarked, right? There's it. So now we have a fairly detailed ticket here. We have some questions that we're sending off to design. We sort of see the many places that this is going to appear. We've really got 3 sections. It's on any time we have an article with a card, and we can assume that this article card is going to be used in more places. We have this other card here, and we have a little bookmark icon, and then we have a little bookmark icon here associated with the article. For me, I think that we can kind of take this spec and walk it over into development and what a development plan would look like. So we're going to stop here because I think this is sort of one step, which is a very non-technical review of the design that makes it so somebody can begin to work on this. And for the next video, we'll get into planning the development.